Shalom, Akim and Nakwa. This is your brother Azariah. I want to start by giving all the praise, all the honor, and the glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahawashi, Yahweh being the true name of the Most High God, doing so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world knows as Jesus Christ. But we know the true name to be Yahawashi, and He is the Hamashiach. All right. What we want to do right here is, I actually even wasn't gonna even get into a topic like this, concerning the just dealing with Christianity, and they're coming with their little topics. I came across, my rib came across one of them dealing with Esau, and in terms of them making that school. I did that lesson on that. Slacky, that class concerning how they you go into it. Esau is basically he's loved less than Jacob, but not actually hated by the Most High. So now, there's another one, not saying by the same people, but nonetheless, you're going to see, you got these guys here now breaking how it's, it's basically a scandalous, or I won't say they said scandalous, I don't want to bear false witness, but they're basically deeming, having multiple wives is not part of God's design or not lawful. And I really wasn't going to do a topic on this, but when I seen it, I was just like, man, this is just untruthful. This is really, anybody that's co-signing this, and there's definitely, you can believe there's people on the comment boards that are supporting the guy speaking here, including this guy right here smiling, you know what I'm saying, like he just got a fresh cut and bobbing his head. You know what I'm saying, like he on a Diddy track, you know what I'm saying, just listen to some some records that's just on point, you know what I'm saying, just agreeing to the guy that's talking concerning the topic of multiple wives. And the topic is not salvational. Marriage isn't even salvational in the sense of that it's a liberty. That's what I mean by that. Now we are judged by how we treat our spouses. If you are married, you're judged by how you treat your spouses in marriage, and how we, that's part of our our walk in the walk in our life. If you are a married man, and then of course if you have children, and amongst also how you deal with your brothers and others in the walk, so and how you treat them, so, and even outside the walk, even outside the truth, so it's one of those things, just how we operate and try to do better at being a light, the light that Mashiach Yahawashi called us to be, ultimately the Most High called us to be. But anyway, it's not, marriage is something of liberty, and you don't have to partake in it. Now, granted, it is of the Most High's will, and that's what we're going to get at, because they're really going in saying, you're going to hear it, and we're just going to kind of just go through some of this video, or all of this video, really. I think it's 2 minutes, whatever. We're going to kind of break it down as the best we can, Yahweh willing, piece by piece, and just kind of just do some commentary on it, destroying any false doctrine, in the the name of truth, So let's go here, because Yahawashi comes in the volume of the book. So let's go ahead and deal with this.
How many wives he had? He had 700 wives. Again, correct, and 300 concubines. It is later on the church has put a ban that Christians should marry only one, not the Bible. But are we forgetting what happened to Abraham? Yeah, Abraham had more than one woman, Sarah, Hagar,
and actually, he was right about it. And this looks like a Ishmaelite teaching this, and probably with Islam or whatever the case may be. But he's right. Christianity did put a ban on the whole multiple wives piece. It wasn't something that was different. That's why you see even different cultures run it, in different areas. But of course, you go through these different captivities, and just like in the law, like the law perished amongst in the Greek captivity under Alexander the Great. In the midst of that, midst of being in these captivities, the Greek captivity to the Roman captivity, yeah, this became definitely something, along with the rest of the law and ordinances that perish. You know what I'm saying, in the sense of not being practiced in the laws of the land, and then they're not taking heed to these things.
Keturah. But who told him to take Hagar? Not God. It was Sarah's idea because they doubted God's timing. And the moment he brought in the second woman, jealousy, abuse, division, Hagar despised Sarah. Sarah mistreated Hagar. Ishmael and Isaac's descendants remained divided for generations. So Abraham's story isn't proof God approves of polygamy.
Well, here's the part. Here's the thing about it, right? You can't say that it disproves it, because the Most High had Abraham to be a righteous man. Where any sin that he did, if he did any sin, you can't. It's not even listed. There's nothing that Abraham did. He's always listed as the father of faith. Now, we're not saying he was perfect. He was not Yahawashi. You know, no one is going to be at that level. But to say that, you know, there's any offense that Abraham did, if this was an offense that he committed by taking on Hagar, which was Sarah's idea in a sense, right? And mind you, people got to understand the division that was caused between them was for the Most High's purpose. Because when you go into it, right, even it's used as an allegory, Paul writes about it. Let's go to the book of Galatians chapter 4. Right? There's a reason for that. Verse 24. Let's start off at 21. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? Now, he's speaking this to Israelites. Clearly, he's speaking this to Israelites, those that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law, right? So it's going to be an allegory he's going to use for the sake of everybody else to understand, the believers of the church, specifically that are Israelites. Verse 22, for it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman, right? We know that bondmaid would be Hagar and that free woman would be Sarah, because that's where the promise came through. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise. There you go. We know Isaac was the child of promise. Now, Hagar was a child, born the child of the flesh, which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants. The one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this, Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above is free, which is the mother of us all. For it is written, rejoice thou barren, thou bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not. For the desolate have many more children than she which have an husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac are the children of promise. And Paul's using this as an allegory ultimately to let you know that the breakdown really of the children of Israel compared to the children of the flesh, which would be, right, Hagar. At the time, you would divide it. The children of promise, because there were no Israelites at the time. It was just more so the chosen lineage. So you had Isaac and you had Ishmael. Ishmael was born first, Isaac afterwards, right? And there was a divide. And that divide was on purpose, because there had to be other nations that were built. And it was a blessing to Abraham, really, in a testament to Abraham, because all of them would come from Abraham, even though there's only one seed lineage that the Most High counts, which is a child of promise, and that seed lineage ultimately go through Isaac and would go through Jacob. And that's why he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, even though he's the God that created everybody, every nation. Abraham, a lot of nations came through him. Right? You can say the majority, if you will. Ammon and Ammon are not. But regardless, a lot has come through Abraham. I won't say the majority, but a lot has come through Abraham. You got Isaac, and Jacob would be where the lineage of the chosen, that's where it is. That's where the promise is to that seed. All right? For the verse 28. Now we, brethren, as Isaac are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. Nevertheless, what saith the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. See that? So you're just letting the children of the Spirit, those who are believers in Yahawashi, and the grace thereof, letting them know there's a difference between the children of Spirit, children of promise, versus children of the flesh. And this would apply now to the Israelites as well. There's the diagram, the Venn diagram is getting smaller. The circle's getting smaller. All right. So that's what Paul was getting into. So yeah, there's going to be the divide, but that's why you're going to have that. So it's not a result. We should blame, polygyny for the fact of the Most High was going to divide up and place things in order. He had to create other nations, because even before Abraham, if you want to do that, he had, another monogamous relationship in Lot and his wife, that marriage perished when she died, because she couldn't turn back. She would not focus and move ahead and be obedient as told. She had to look back into Sodom and Gomorrah, and she perished because of it. So let's go back.
It is proof that adding more than what God designed breaks the house. Are we forgetting what happened to Solomon? Yeah, he had 700 wives, but before he ever did, God commanded kings not to multiply wives, or they would turn the king's hearts away from God.
Everybody that disproves, dislikes, the idea of polygyny, and by the way, hold on real quick, we're gonna deal with that too. We're gonna deal with this polygyny. Let's deal with that. Let's get it. All right. So just a quick AI overview, right? So we're going to deal with this polygamy, and we're going to narrow it down a little bit. Polygamy is the general practice of having multiple spouses, while polygyny is a specific type of polygamy where one man marries multiple women. And that's what we're getting into, is that it's lawful, because when you just use polygamy, and that's what they want to do. They actually want to do that, just put it up there, because polygamy is multi. It could go anywhere, right? As it's about to say, if you keep reading it, making polygyny a subset of polygamy, right? The other main form of polygamy is polyandry, where one woman has multiple husbands, though it's much rare. But see, that's the thing. It still can happen, right? With polygamy, you can still get these mix-ups. You can get, a man marrying multiple wives, but then also there's another man involved. These are the swinger type stuff. You get a man that marries another man and that marries another woman, and then who knows what else, man. Like in this freak world today, so you can get whatever. So that's why want to be specific in dealing with the subset of polygamy would be polygyny, in dealing with multiple spouses. So a man having multiple wives, not side pieces, but wives. Okay, so I'm going to clear that up. But everyone that deals with that's against polygyny always loves to go to this verse. Always loves to go to, I shouldn't even bring it up because it always happens. Slakia. Everyone loves to go here and try to, use, not Second Kings, Salakia. Everyone tries to go to this verse and use this, and it is really to no avail, right? Deuteronomy 17 and 16. So let's read this. But he shall not multiply horses to, we're going into kings, right? This is the way of a king. First off, that is a way of a king. So, if someone's not a king, does this apply to them? That's also another way to use this, to understand, hey, look, like to give these questions to these, these modern day Christians. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom Yahweh thy power shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. That's clear. Let's go to 16. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, right? So let's use all of this, right? Because we're going to get to the whole wives part in verse 17, right? Neither shall he multiply wives to him. So let's just jump there. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply himself silver and gold. So you also can't have silver and gold, right? You can't multiply silver and gold to yourself either, right? Oh, let's keep it going. Let's go back up. Oh, you can't multiply horses to yourself neither, right? King can't multiply horses to themselves, right? Because the people returned to Egypt. So this is it. So you can't have multiple horses, and you can't have a plethora of gold and silver neither. But no one talks about that. No one talks about you can't multiply money. And now, and if you apply today's time, there's more currency. So should a man, they say the scriptures say the money is the root of all evil, right? You know, so if we're gonna do this, right, we got to be consistent with all the things the text is saying. Are we gonna say that hey, look, now we can't get more money? You have to keep what, $1 in your bank account? You keep $1 in your pocket, one in your bank account? Of course, that would be foolish to do so, right? You can't live like that, right? You can't live like that. Can't get by like that. So, if we're just using common sense, the whole aspect of this doctrine, of this teaching here, is to say a king should basically not set idols to his heart that he turns away from the Most High God. This is what this is about. And Solomon, yes, Solomon did go off because he did that. He multiplied wives to himself that his heart was turned away. He multiplied the wrong women to himself and bit off more. It's probably safe to say he bit off more than he could chew. That's what happened. He bit off more than he could chew, but he also bit off, he took in the wrong people. You could, if you take in the wrong woman, like an Ahab, and you take in Jezebel, that was a monogamous relation. That was a monogamous marriage. But guess what? He took in the wrong woman. He took in the wrong woman. That happens. You know what I'm saying? The cause of fall. It is what it is. So we can apply the same logic, period. We can apply the same logic around the book, and that's what we just have to do, is we have to be consistent if we're going to, do things like this.
Solomon was like, all right, I'm going to completely ignore this. And what happened? His wives turned his heart to other gods. That's not God saying, go and take on 700 wives. That's God saying, look what happens when a man leaves my design. The Old Testament records polygamy, yes, but every single time it appears, the story goes dark. The Bible has always been honest about human sin, but recording it isn't the same as approving of it. Some Christians today cheat. Some marry multiple people. Does that mean God allows it? Of course not. If God...
Well, look, and this is where you have greatly failed. See, this is what I say a lot of times for brothers and sisters. Like I say this when speaking, if speaking about this topic. When we talk about a man, right? Can a man marry more than one wife? Is this something that is approved? Can it be approved? Is it possible? Is it lawful? Is it a sin? If you say no, and you say no to the first half when it comes to being a sin, right? Because the first part would be saying it's lawful would say, if it's saying it's not lawful would be saying it's a sin. So if you're saying it's a sin, you have lost the battle before you've even begun, because it's in the Most High God's word. We're not talking about it being expedient. I tell anyone, if you have a discussion you want to talk about when considering polygyny, when people talk about this, they need to have this conversation about, hey, is it expedient? And making an open conversation. That's what it needs to be about. Is it expedient? Should I do this? What type of brother should do this? What type of sister should do this? Who is it for? How do the requirements fit? These are the type of things that brothers and sisters should have when they have these type of conversations. It don't matter what you are, whether you're a quote unquote Christian, modern day Christian in today's time, Christianity, because you're really just, indulged in Christianity, which is not the same as being what are the disciples, the believers of Yahawashi being called Christians were. That's why I always say that it make a difference. But modern day Christianity, right? If you believe whatever you believe in, that you should take that stance. Don't take the stance of multiple wives is not lawful, because you've already lost. You've already lost before the battle has even begun. As long as someone just knows where to find certain scriptures, just which are there, it's really that simple. You've lost because you're now going against the word of the Most High. You're offended that a man can be a man and have multiple wives. And we're not saying it's something for everybody and everybody's going to have that on this side of the land, on this world. Now in the kingdom, that's a different story. And that's another cut, but we'll save it and try to keep everything in order. But he's saying it's not part of his design. It's not part of recorded. Okay. But see, the thing about it, and this is another piece, the free will. This is where Christianity fails. There's so many false doctrines that are built up together. That's why the house it blows away easy when it can blow away. You know what I'm saying? If challenged against scripture, right, properly. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 23. All right. And it reads, O Lord, Yahawashi, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. Okay. What does that mean? It means the Most High is the controller, right? Let's go ahead and get another translation comparison right here. I know, Yahawashi, that our lives are not our own. We are not able to plan our own course. What does that mean? That means that the Most High sets your course up. He sets our course up before we can do it. This destiny. He has a fate for everybody. All right. Need more proof? Want some New Testament proof? Just in case you think it changed. Let's let Paul quote it. Romans 9. He's quoting 9 and 21. He's quoting Jeremiah, right? Jeremiah 18. Salakia. Have not the potter power over the clay? That's the Most High. The Most High is the potter, and we're the clay. Of the same lump to make one vessel onto honor and another onto dishonor, right? What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, right? Meaning that they have a purpose, right? Some fitted for the kingdom's sake, some are fitted for destruction, right? It's no free will. I could go up. Therefore have he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he hardeneth. Right? Thou will say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who have resisted his will? That's a rhetorical question. You know, that's a rhetorical question. There is no one who can resist. No one can resist the Most High. All right. See, and we could get more. We could keep it going. But at the end of the day, right, this is called predestination. This is something that's already determined. So the Most High directs the steps. So to say this is not part of his design, everything is really part of the Most High's design. Now, yeah, there are labels for it. You want to go into left-handed, right? There's things on the Most High's design, which is righteous that he created. He put it on the righteous side, and things he put on the left-hand side. So that's just a matter of where he put it. Did he put it on the right-hand side? Or did he put it on the left-hand side? That's all we're getting into at that point, because the Most High created everything, right? By Shema Mashiach Yahawashi, use Yahawashi to create it. So really, I mean, use the Son to create everything, which is another topic. But yeah, there's nothing that goes beyond the Most, because that's, if you don't go into predestination and the Most High controls everything, you're saying you can do something that could actually potentially surprise the Most High God. It's something that he wouldn't have known about, or he just finds out quickly. No, he knows it ahead of time. So if he knows it ahead of time, that means it's there. That means it's already set. That means it's going to happen. He knows without a shadow of a doubt what's going to happen. All right. So it's definitely part of the Most High's design. And even in the law, he puts it there as part of his design. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 15. If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, and I will just stop right there. This is going into the aspect of, you know, if a man has two wives and then, well, he has one that he favors, kind of like with Jacob, right? And this is probably put in play due to, as a result of, you know, the Jacob, Rachel and Leah dynamic, you know, things like that could happen where it was obvious. The Most High shut up Rachel's wound and open Leah's wound, because it was obvious that, Jacob never wanted Leah from the start. He wanted Rachel. He never intended to marry Leah. But of course, now Laban duped him. He duped him, and had him end up marrying Leah, for the sense of, hey, he had to get his oldest daughter. Like, say it's by culture, you got to marry the oldest daughter. Right? And the deal was for Rachel, so he let him keep working for, he met him, had him work for another 7 years. He wanted to get Leah out of there, so for another 7 years, he had him have to work for her to take Rachel on. So it was obvious, though, that he wanted to marry Rachel. He was worked that long for Rachel. And, of course, he had to balance it out with Leah by letting her bear most of the children. And most of the seed line of Jacob, the seed line of the patriarch came through, was born from Leah. Obviously Jacob, the seed line comes from the man, so it had been through Jacob, but it was born from Leah. Leah had the honor of bearing most of the children of Israel. And then, of course, Rachel eventually did bear children. Then you also, even before her, you had the handmaids. She had her handmaid bear children on to Jacob, and then Leah's handmaid, because there's all this competition going on. And then Rachel had her children, Joseph and Benjamin. So at the end of the day, we see this is in the law. This is written here. It wouldn't be something out of the Most High's design to be written in the law, for it to be here. Now, yes, so this isn't the same thing as a Matthew 19 with men putting away their wives. This is to keep in check. It's very articulated, trying to keep in check that if a man has a wife, and then of course he has just like obvious favor towards, one, then, well, there's stipulations in play to balance it out, to keep things balanced, because we know our God is a balanced power. So that's all. You cut yourself right there, by really going against the word of the Most High with saying, this is out of his design, when this is right in the Mosaic law, in design, right there.
Wanted polygamy as his design. He would have made Adam, Eve, Rebecca, Stephanie, Mary in the garden, but he didn't. He made one woman and said this: the two shall become one flesh.
How do you know what the Most High would have done? See, always people try to deduct and think they're so smart. Because he didn't want it to be multiple wives with Adam, that all of a sudden now, it wasn't part of his original design. But he had other people do it. If he didn't want it to be a thing, because not everybody has to have multiple wives, man. That's the thing, man. No, not like people just try to use this to jump it up and put it together like that. Like, it's just like, no, he wanted to just give an example of Adam. He had an example of for man, Adam, an example for Eve, the woman. This is definitely easier to take into play. And guess what? This was the fall. This was the beginning, the fall. And it was a monogamous relationship. People love to reference Adam and Eve, but that's really the wrong place to go. It's really the wrong place to go. Salakia. That's the worst place to go, because you're just showing that even in a monogamous relationship, things can fall apart. And marriage in general isn't easy, whether it's monogamous or polygynous. Now, I'll give you that polygynous relationship definitely could be harder, but for sure, 100% hands down, especially if you don't have the right people involved. And that's what it's about. It's about the Most High being in control and ordaining the marriage. And you're praying it's to your betterment. And people do this for the wrong reasons. But that's why you got to do things for the right reasons with the right intent. If it's the Most High's will, he will do as such things. But, to say it's just a wrong thing in general is just going off. Just keep it real. With modern day Christianity is for them, it's through their precepts, through their emotions, they think they get understanding. Or they think they're giving understanding. It's not it. This isn't it.
3, not 4, not 2. Even at the beginning, when humans needed to multiply quickly, God didn't give Adam multiple wives.
Look at my man. He over here smiling and cheesing like like man's over here cooking.
It's because speed wasn't more important than design. When Jesus came, he didn't let the church ban polygamy like you say. Jesus himself reaffirmed God's original plan. From the beginning, God made them male and female. A man shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Jesus didn't say wives. He didn't say the three become one flesh. He said one wife. The apostles taught the same thing.
You didn't, but even if you go, right, let's go there. Let's go to where they're probably referencing Matthew 19 or Mark 10. And the whole context about this was dealing with the Pharisees. So for this cause, a man shall leave father and mother and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Right? Mind you, he didn't even bring the scripture out. But this scripture is because look, even the Pharisees came on him, tempting him and saying on him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And the case is, he's like, this is what Yahawashi is getting into, telling him, hey, look, this is what it was from the beginning. Man and woman, they shall be one flesh. They're twain together. Once you're together, you're together. So he's reaffirming and really tightening up on aspects of Deuteronomy 24, which that was written in, again, like he's saying, for the hardness of their hearts, right? That's why they had to ask, why, why did Moses, why Moses say, it's lawful, basically that you could put away your woman, right? And it was really for uncleanliness when you go into that. But thing about it is people use it in the sense of favor. They use multiple things to kind of fall into that category and use a loophole in the law. So, you had men just putting away their wives for just things that were just minuscule. Just ridiculous, just for the sake so they could go get another wife. And they may, and mind you, they may also put away multiple wives. It was crazy out here. There were some men that had multiple wives. They would do this. Some of them would put away, but they would have one wife and not even take on another wife. They would put one wife away and then go get another one. See what I'm saying? So like, it's totally opposite. The Levitical priesthood couldn't operate like that, because they couldn't take on a woman that was put away. They had to marry a virgin, right? That's how holy it was. And that's why Yahawashi is getting into it now, as if we're going to be a real priesthood, right? As the Levitical priesthood was a foreshadow. If we're going to be a priesthood, right? If we're training to be priests for an upcoming priesthood, then we got to operate the same, right? So you can't put away your wife for anything outside of, and then outside of adult. And then, hey, if a woman commits adultery and she's put away, well, then another man can't take her on, So that's just what the case is. Once you're in the body, that's that. That you're in Yahawashi Mashiach, you've entered into priesthood training. You've pretty much made your stand. You know what I'm saying? If both parties involved. So, going into this, he doesn't say this is why you need to bring the scripture, prove all things. You need to bring out the scripture. My man was just kind of, he thought he was getting into his bag, but he reached in there and there wasn't anything in there. So you go in here, man, and then you see it's not saying, Yahawashi isn't even saying anything. It's saying, hey, he's not specifying, hey, but just one wife, brother. You can't have, no longer from the beginning, it wasn't so. And you just, you took on multiple wives for the hardness of your heart. He didn't say anything close to that. He's not even saying one wife. Now, if you want to go to Paul, you want to go to where Paul was writing, and I believe 1 Corinthians 7, right? Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. So that doesn't negate a man having his more than one wife. That doesn't negate that, right? Because if you see it, a man can have his own wife. If he has more than one wife, guess what? That's his own. If I have, and I'm gonna compare it, because if women are the most beautiful possessions, right? Let's make this clear. They're most beautiful possessions, but they are possessions to a man, right? And there should be no more important possession. The same way Yahawashi looks at us as a people. Yahawashi looks at us as the church as that way. There's no, as a man, if you have a wife, there should be no more important possession, or wives for that matter. But that being said, you can, if you have multiple possessions, you can have that with anything. A man can have multiple possessions for cars. A man can have multiple possessions for homes. So, and et cetera, multiple possessions for shoes. We can go down the line, right? A man can have multiple dogs. I mean, where we, where we want to stop at? Because that's the whole point. A man can have multiple things, so he can have multiple wives as well. Because we gotta go into what was the woman created for, right? What was the woman created for? Right? That's what we're getting into. Let's see if every woman has the definition right there. It goes into every. Let me see something real quick. Let's go. We're gonna go into the etymology. All right. So woman, right? Adult female, literally woman. With man, right? Plural, with man, woman. Female servant, compound of with man, woman. See, wife, right? Wife, literally woman. So it's putting them together. A woman's purpose was to be, a wife, the helpmeet to a man, right? And that's not to say that they can't, do. Now, I don't take the stance that a woman can't be a servant of Yahawashi, even if they're not married. I'm not even taking the stance that all women may be married in this world. You know what I'm saying? Before Yahawashi comes, I can't say that. Don't know how this all plays out. Can't really say that. You had Judith, for example, who was a widow. She did get married, but she chose to remain unmarried into her end, even afterwards. So it is, you never know when she was eligible to be married. So it's one of those things, man. You can't hold absolutes with certain things, because everything is in the Most High's will. But that being said, that's the purpose of a woman. Ultimately was created to be the helpmeet to a man, and that's why that's deep in a lot of women too, and men to want to have wives, but women to want to be wives, because that's their natural purpose. Their natural purpose to do what? Serve the Most High, be led to the Most High in serving, and be the helpmeet to a man. See that? So, this doesn't negate a man being able to have more than one wife. Right? At all. You know what I'm saying? It just says, hey, let a man have his own wife. So if he decides if he just has one or if he has multiple, regardless, it still fits.
Each man should have his own wife. Leaders must be the husband of one wife. Now about that.
And now he's getting into like the, here we go, like scripture such as Titus. Here we go right here. So, and let's deal with that. So Titus 1:7, for a bishop must be blameless as the steward of God, right? The Most High, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre. All right. Now, a bishop must, so this is getting into it, right? Not a striker, not filthy, husband of one wife. Okay, that's what we're looking at. These are qualifications, right, that a bishop must have. So must be the husband of one wife, meaning what? He has at least one wife. The man must be at least married. Now, and I used to look at it like this too, like it's literally saying one wife, and that's what it means. You can't, but even, and we can even play devil's advocate, right? We can play devil's advocate. Even if you want to take the understanding that this means literally verbatim just one wife, okay, cool. Well, at the same token, right, that do you have to be a bishop? You don't have to be a bishop. Even if you wanted to go with that understanding, cool. Not everyone has to be a bishop. Go further down, it says the same. It says the same thing for a deacon, right? I believe if it's not in this chapter, it'd be the next chapter. It's the same thing for a deacon. So in which case, you don't have to be a bishop. You don't have to be a deacon. So now could you have multiple wives? If you still had that understanding, which again, this is qualifications. These are qualifications. All of these listed are qualifications of bishops, of a bishop. And if you're a deacon, these are qualifications for a deacon, right? That's what it is. Just like they're giving qualification even for the woman in terms of, how to teach younger women what they should do. So, these are qualifications. And that's really it. As a matter of fact, if you really go into it, it would even, it actually would, if a man had to be a husband of one wife, at least, to prove that he can manage the church, because that's what the context of this is about, right? Going into these aspects, right? Blameless, faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly. And this showing the man, has spiritual control over his house. Well, if that's the case, then if he had more than one wife, that would prove even further how qualified he is to be a bishop in the church or a deacon in the church if he had more than one wife, because that takes more responsibility. That's harder, right? Your responsibility doubled. You see, especially of course if you have children with said spouse. So that's how this goes. That's how that is. It wouldn't even make sense. But again, when you don't pull out precepts, when you don't bring out Bible verses, you're going to do what? You're going to give bad Bible.
You have taking multiple wives to help them financially. You can help widows and single mothers without marrying them. You know that, right? Marriage.
Yeah, but you can. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I will say that. There is nothing wrong with that. You can. But when you go into I'm not even going to go into, Isaiah 4:1 because it's used so much, and it's not so much for this one, even though, again, that's multiple wives. And that's leading into the kingdom, that women are going to come for protection and be called by thy name. The NLT, it literally says, so we can marry you. It makes it clear as day. So it's like, in a time of trouble when all hell breaks loose, women are going to cleave onto not all men, but like certain men, because it's going to be hard to find. They're going to be a hiding place, right? It's fine gold, right? So, if this is the case, so on the way to the kingdom, this thing is going to be okay and permitted again, when it's not permitted until that happens. And then in the kingdom, it's going to be permitted, and men are going to have multiple wives. It could be as much as that. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense in just the sense of whether it's something that is lawful to do or not. In that context, it makes no sense.
It's supposed to be a picture of Christ and the church. Christ doesn't have multiple brides. He has one bride. And truthfully...
And this is the crazy part. Again, cutting yourself. Because how many people consist of the body? There's people, right? There's believers. There's believers in the church. Right? Right? There are believers in the church. Okay? Right? 1 Corinthians 12:20. But now are they many members, yet but one body. Verse 9, let me go right here to verse start with verse 18. But now hath God set the members, every one of them, in the body as it hath pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are they many members, yet but one body. See that? Many members, one body. Just dealing with the church. And I was like, even in the comments, I was trying to tell people, look, man, yeah, the church is listed as the church, but the church consists of people. you have a sect of people, right? That's what it is. There's many people within the church. So yes, the Most High and the Yahawashi look at it as it's a polygynous relationship. And even though it's one church consisting of his people. This is plural, right? Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 25. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. This is a marriage with this is polygyny right here. See this? And you can go into the, hey, 5 of them were wise and 5 of them were foolish. Cool. Okay. So even if you want to subtract the 5 foolish because they're foolish, okay, fine. Guess what? You still got 5. You went from 10 to 5. That's more than 1. So, we gotta you gotta go into these scriptures, man. You gotta, through thy precepts, we get understanding, not through thy emotions.
Your heart, body, and affection are divided among multiple women. Your devotion will be divided too. And a divided heart can't fully belong to God or anyone else.
Really, if that's the case, then we should do as Paul said, Yahawashi said, and Paul said, don't even get married. And I get it. Don't get it twisted. This is a thing. You can get divided if you're getting divided. But this is why you put the Most High before everything, right? Love Yahweh thy power with all thy heart. That's what we got to do. And if there's something that where you can't do that because, having one wife or multiple wives, whatever the case, if that gets in the way, then don't do it. Don't get married, brother. Don't get married if it's one wife, or don't get married if it's multiple wives. You feel it? But that is a thing for sure that can happen. Absolutely. But it can happen in any type of marriage. It definitely can happen. Do your risk increase with more than one woman? Sure. Absolutely. Again, stated that before. More responsibility. These are things that can happen, though. Doesn't mean they will. And it means a brother needs to be just like, hey, we tell in the case, like, anytime I get a chance to talk to a brother, like, and stuff like this, just want to definitely be vigilant when it comes to one sister. See what I'm saying? And knowing who you're dealing with, knowing who you're getting to be one flesh with. That's what it's about. Whether you're doing it for the first or second or third, or whatever the case, you want to know who it is that you're becoming one flesh with. And this is the Most High's ordained plan for you in righteousness.
Absolutely no way you can love multiple people at the same time, especially when intimacy is involved.
That's according to you, love doctor. That's according to you. You think that. That's your belief. Yahweh Shem Yahawashi can love multiple people of the church, right? If we're going to use this analogy, it can happen. and so you got to understand, you're kind of just creating your own Think Like a Man, your Steve Harvey book. You know what I'm saying? Instead of literally just going into the precepts, which if we know we love God by keeping his commandments. And if you're helping, right? Not to saying there's not emotion involved, but really the first thing is to lead that woman, right, to the church, right? To cleanse her. Right? Not to suffer, love your neighbor as thyself, not to suffer sin upon them. Right? Verse 2, 1 John 5:2. But this we know, that we love the children of God. We love the children of God, right? Or fellow children. When we love Yahweh, God, which is Yahweh, and keep his commandments. For this is the love of Yahweh, that we keep his commandments. The commandments are not grievous. And there's different aspects of love, right? There's different aspects of love. We apply those. If you're doing that, you're showing the first sign of love, to not suffer sin upon your neighbor, to love them as you love yourself, right? If you're doing that, then by default, you are giving a love to multiple people. And especially even if it's a wife, if you have it with your wife, which is a sister, and another sister, you're actually giving them love. That can be done at the same time. And, there's other nuances. We get it with the aspects to emotion and things that you deal with in marriage. And that is true within there. There's things to, go into. There's different aspects of love. But nonetheless, He's saying it can't be done. Like it's something that can't be done. But that's incorrect. Again, that would be incorrect.
Equally. And Jesus taught us to live outside of this flesh, but through the Spirit. In order to connect to God, we must purify ourselves. Living through our flesh is not going to bring us to the purest form of creation. Polygamy will always lead to destruction. And God's design has always been the same. One man, one woman, one flesh, one covenant, one bride. Just like Jesus.
Yeah, we just read in Matthew 25 how that wasn't the case. That he was gonna, you got 5. This is what the kingdom, mind you, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like in Matthew 25. This is what the kingdom of heaven is like. Yet the Most High ordained everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that simple. It's that simple with the Most High design. We can, and there's plenty of other precepts that we left out if it wasn't part of his design, or if it was off, if it was wicked. Close it out right here. Let's see, First King, Salakia. Be 2 Samuel. Yeah, 2 Samuel 12. Let's go ahead and start at verse 7. And Nathan said to David, "Thou art the man, thus saith Yahweh, God of Israel. I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom." You know, it says plural. Wives into thy bosom. And gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. You see that? The Most High saying he would have given David more wives. And he already had wives, right? He already given them. He's like he said, I gave you your master's house and your master's wives. So Most High is agreeing to give someone something, give him something's off, or something that's off according to his plan, right? A man of God that was after his own heart, even though he was, on the downslide right here. The Most High was willing to feed into his lust or sin or whatever you want to call it. It was unrighteous, something against his ways. The Most High was willing to feed into that. Like, come on now. NLT version. I gave you your master's house and his wives and the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. And if that had not been enough, I would have given you much, much more. So, we just gotta, we gotta make sure through thy precepts, we get understanding and hate every false way. And that's really what this was about. Because it was a bunch of emotion, just like what Christianity really does. It's harp on emotion, more emotion, less Bible. That's the director's cut. So I hope this was edifying for brothers and sisters. And I want to give all praises, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahawashi. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, that are learning and or teaching this gospel in truth and sincerity. Till next time, Yahweh willing, Shalom.